issues of the day with real robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You're with GB News, it's 11 o'clock. The top story this hour. South Wales police have denied that police were to blame for the deaths of 2 teenagers killed in Cardiff on Monday evening, saying the nearest police vehicle was half a mile away at the time. CCTV footage appeared to show a police van following an e-bike before the fatal incident occurred. The deaths of 16-year-old Kyrie Sullivan and 15-year-old Harvey Evans sparked rioting in the Ely area of the city. Hundreds of bunches of flowers have been left at the roadside by friends and family, and tonight a candlelit vigil was held to remember the 2 men that died. Rishi Sunak says the latest inflation figures show the government is making progress on his promise to halve it. His comments came as new data showed inflation fell to 8.7% last month. That's the first time the figure has fallen below 10% since last August. However, with food price inflation continuing at a near-record 19.1%, Labour has accused the government of failing to help struggling families. GB News understands that the authorities in Portugal hunting for clues to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann will continue their search for a 3rd day tomorrow. Police have been using mechanical undergrowth cutters, radar, rakes and poles today and were seen removing a number of sealed bags from the scene. Investigators are looking for any sign that the 3-year-old was at the Arade Dam and Reservoir, which was visited a number of times by the prime suspect in the case, Christian Bruckner. To the United States now, where the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is announcing he's entering the race for the 2024 presidential elections. He's filed the paperwork and is announcing the news at an event online around now with the billionaire Elon Musk. The 44-year-old will stand against candidates, including his main rival, Donald Trump, for the Republican nomination. Now, a medical breakthrough. A man who was paralysed more than a decade ago has regained the ability to walk simply by thinking about it. Neuroscientists in Switzerland have used artificial intelligence to create what they call a wireless digital bridge between the brain and the spinal cord. They say it converts the thoughts of movement into actual movement. After being paralysed in a bicycle accident in China 10 years ago, Gert Janoksam can now stand, walk and climb stairs once again. Now, tributes have been pouring in this evening for one of rock and roll's most famous voices, Tina Turner, who's died at the age of 83.
You're simply the best, better than all
In an astonishing career spanning over 60 years in show business, the American-Swiss singer sold more than 180 albums worldwide, and she won 12 Grammy Awards. The Rolling Stones' Mick Jagger called her inspiring, warm, funny and generous, and Tom Jones has tweeted tonight calling her a one-of-a-kind talent. Mariah Carey also said her music will inspire generations to come. Tina Turner, who died today. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on the TuneIn app. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me tonight are two of my very best friends. Well, no, actually, they weren't available, so I've had to make do with Leo Kearse and Cressida Wetton. How are you both?
Well, not very nice now that I know that we're not best friends anymore.
Well, you know, I'm very disgruntled at you, Leo, and for reasons which I shall not elaborate on.
Right.
How are you?
Wow,
Cressida?
tension. I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, I'm wondering why we've got a pint of milk here.
We've got a pint of milk because Leo is very concerned about his calcium.
Right,
Yeah.
good stuff. Okay.
So no brittle bones for you. Well done. Let's crack on. We're going to have a look at Thursday's front pages first. The Daily Mail is leading with top cop in VIP abuse probe faces misconduct charges. The Telegraph is running with millions on jobless benefits do not have to seek work. The Guardian has a clamour for PM to scrap Johnson's honours list. The Times is leading with Whitehall clash over Johnson's COVID diary. The Metro, Prem stars stalked by Devil Baby. We'll get to that in a minute and explain all. And finally, the Daily Star, which has the sad death of Tina Turner, simply the best. And those were your front pages. So we're going to kick off with Thursday's Daily Star. Leo is running. They're running with the image that is on most of the front covers.
Yeah, the death of Tina Turner, aged 83 in Switzerland. There's a picture of her there just as she stands on some Lego. And yeah, she's an incredible rock icon, 60-year career. Overcame, you know, she's from a time where she overcame genuine racism, genuine, you know, terrible obstacles to defeat. And also misogyny. Her husband abused her.
Yep.
She had to escape that marriage.
Yeah.
So she's really inspirational figure. And I think, you know, today's generation who complain about, you know, the slightest little microaggression or misgendering could learn a few things from her.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you a fan of Tina Turner, Cressida?
Well, I know the hits.
Yeah, of course, well, we all know the hits.
I can't say I know the details of all the album tracks.
No.
Yeah, fantastic. Tina the Legs, my dad used to call her.
Really?
Yes, which isn't...
She did that dance where
She
she
did.
like... In fact, Mick Jagger based his stage persona on Tina Turner.
Are you just making that up?
No, that's a real thing.
It feels plausible. It feels like something you would say in a pub quiz before the internet, and I'd have to believe you.
It's very sad, though. It's when these stars who've just been there forever and you just take them for granted that they're always there, but then they go. And
I was shocked to find out that... I mean, because if she's 83, then that means I'm also getting on a bit.
Yep. It's all about you, Leo, and your mortality.
Well, it is. It reminds you that, you know, I'm not...
You're no spring chicken.
None of us are young anymore.
No, you're not. OK, well, before Leo starts crying about that, we're going to move on to The Guardian. Cressida, what have they got on the front
Well, they've also got Tina Turner on the front cover. But they have this story, Rishi Sunak under pressure to cancel Boris Johnson's honours list.
OK, so explain this. This is in the wake of all the pressure that is mounting.
All the pressure, yes. The police have got his COVID diaries.
Ooh.
So we're going to find out about all his parties and what he got up to during COVID. Of course, this was some time ago, and we're now 2 prime ministers ahead, aren't we?
Yes, we are. What do you make of this, though, Cressida? A lot of people are saying this is a bit of a witch hunt. And, you know, there's even been there was an article in the Express talking about how there is a sort of secret plot, or at least there's a perception that there's a secret plot to sort of get out all the Brexiteers within the party.
Well,
do you think this is convincing?
It could be, couldn't it? I mean, Angela Rayner is saying it's impossible for the list to go ahead. Now there's fresh accusations, and you think, I don't know, is it impossible? I think it could go ahead, couldn't it?
It could. Leo, are you? I mean, you like the old conspiracy theory, don't you? Do you think they are trying to? Because they're going after Suze Braverman as well, and now
anybody who could be remotely conservative. Most of the Tory party could actually just be in Labour. So Anybody who could actually differentiate the Tory party from Labour,
well, Labour,
they're going after them. And yeah, Labour seem to be tacking to the right and becoming the new Conservative party.
Yeah.
But yes, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're going after Boris in this witch hunt to find out, did he have a second slice of cake? Were there balloons? Did he have a little, paper umbrella in his pina colada? It's absolute nonsense.
Well, a balloon could be dangerous in an airborne pandemic because if one of them pops...
Well, yeah, and
you know what I mean?
You've got to blow them up.
Yeah.
It's absolute nonsense because it's a pointless witch hunt. He's gone. As Cressida said, we've had two.
But has he? I mean, like, a lot of people are saying that he might stage a comeback at some point.
Yeah.
And that this really is about scuppering that.
Well, scuppering any chance of electoral success.
Well, haven't they already just written that off anyway at this point? So they may as well purge the Conservative Party of actual Conservatives.
Yeah, and I think if they're going to go after any politician who's ever done anything wrong, they don't really want to open that Pandora's box.
Well, no, they definitely don't. But also, aren't people bored, Cressida, of Partygate? I mean, they are.
I'm very bored of Partygate, absolutely. And as you say, they're looking for these tiny things, not parking fines, speeding fines.
Yes.
And before we had that story about Rishi's seatbelt not all that long ago. These aren't really enormous matters, are they?
It's like, the president of the USA, the former president, is paying hush money to a porn star, and Rishi Sunak gets fined 50 quid for a bit of bloody seatbelt
and
violation.
the current president of the USA is receiving or his family's receiving millions from China.
Right. Is that right? Is that confirmed?
That's the House Oversight Committee.
All right, well, there we go. So he can say it. Anyway, we're going to move on to the Daily Mail next, Leo. What are they? They obviously have a picture of Tina Turner, but what else do they have?
So this is some pretty outstanding investigative journalism by the Daily Mail that's resulted in the head of Scotland Yard's VIP sex abuse investigation, Steve Rodhouse. That's the name of the man, not the investigation.
It wasn't Operation Rodhouse.
No, it's Operation Midland.
Yes, I remember this.
So it came after Savile. So he's facing gross misconduct charges over allegations he lied in public. So after Savile, people were looking around for anything else, any other, hidden paedophile rings or anything like that, apart from grooming gangs, which they preferred to ignore. But they found this guy, Carl Beach. So his blog was found by a journalist, and he was making all these allegations about paedophilia and also murder of children linked to Dolphin Square in Pimlico, and it's all high-ranking celebrities and politicians. And the Prime Minister. It was really
it was ritualistic murder and sexual abuse, which was obviously not true.
Right.
Like when I heard it, I thought that's clearly not true.
Well, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I mean,
we have different perspectives of politicians, I suppose. But...
And this guy who's making the accusations, Carl Beach, obviously a fantasist, and he himself was a paedophile, and two liars came to back him up, but they've escaped criminal prosecutions. They're just named as A and B in this. But yeah, the head of the investigation, Steve Rodhouse, he escaped. He dodged one misconduct hearing, but finally he's been brought down after the Daily Mail pushed.
Operation Midland was an absolute disaster. I mean, not only was it hugely expensive, it was a travesty of justice. I mean, they were taking the word of fantasists, which anyone with half a brain would have known not to trust. But the head of Scotland Yard came out on live TV and said, these accusations are credible and true. So forget about due process. He's just decided all of this is true. We don't have to worry about court. What is going on when the police just... I mean, they're not doing their jobs in that kind of situation.
Absolutely not. I mean, I don't know. Is it because in the short term they think it's good for their career? I don't know. Do you want to be the guy dealing with it at the time?
Well, I think it might have started when Keir Starmer was Director of Public Prosecutions, because he started this thing saying we must believe the victim.
Yeah.
And he said victim, he changed the language from complainant to victim,
so
again, by
they're automatically, finding the...
Yes. Because there have been so many failings, as you say, there have been so many failings in the past with people not being believed and genuine victims not being believed, that they went the other way and said, believe everyone. But there's a lot of liars out there.
Of course, so in the short term you get to be the good guy, but you're not actually investigating at all.
Well, it's good that people are being held to account for it, I have to say. We're going to move on now to the Express, Cressida. What's this about?
Coming to the UK, car plant deal worth billions. So Britain to win race for Jaguar Land Rover Gigafactory.
What's a gigafactory?
I don't know.
A really big factory.
Why don't they just call it a big factory?
A bigger factory.
Like a gigafactory just sounds ridiculous.
But you got like gigabytes.
And gigawatts.
Gigawatts. And also it makes it sound techie. It's batteries, because these cars will have batteries.
It does sound techie. It does sound techie. And it sounds like it should be said in that lottery voice. A gigafactory. So it's coming to Britain. Britain's set to beat Spain. The chairman's meeting the Prime Minister next week. So it looks like it's all going ahead. And this is fantastic, isn't it? Because we think of car manufacturing as having left the UK.
Yes.
Well, wait a minute. Sorry to rain on the parade here, but it's not just like we've won this. Basically, Jeremy Hunt, the British Chancellor, offered the business £500 million to come here, which is more than the 300 million promised by Madrid.
Okay.
So
we
basically,
bid for it.
We've bribed people to come here.
Speculate to accumulate.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because this front cover, they say in the subtitle, who said Brexit is bad for business? Now, again and again, we're getting various people, you know, whenever something good happens, the sort of pro-Brexit papers will say, look, this shows that Brexit is great. Yeah. Whenever something bad happens, they'll say, look, this shows that Brexit is awful. Can we just all agree that we should wait 20 years, look back, and then decide whether Brexit was bad or good? Because I just don't think we'll know until then.
I think it's going to take longer than 20 years.
Probably.
Yeah.
So let's say 50. Let's say 100, and then I won't have to even listen to it because I'm bored of it.
Well, we'll have been back in and out a few times by then, won't we?
Yes, and we might have cured death. I might still be around at that point.
We'll be part of China.
Yeah, we might be. But, you know, I could do with learning a second language. Yeah, that's fine. We're going to move on now to the Metro, Leo. What's this about, a devil baby?
So a social media influencer who labelled herself Devil Baby stalked and harassed 3 Premier League footballers, a court has heard. So she's called Orla Sloan, she's 22. She's alleged to have sent dozens of texts, WhatsApp messages and Instagram posts to Chelsea midfielder Mason Mount, his teammate Ben Chilwell and ex-teammate Billy Gilmore, as well as calling them on a number of occasions. So she briefly dated Mason Mount. I think briefly dated is probably a polite way of putting it.
Right.
but
what would be an impolite way of putting it?
And Mason Mount has discovered the intersection of hot and crazy at the age of 24. He's found out that you get these girls who they seem very attractive, but they're also mental.
I think, Cressida, anyone you wouldn't be with someone who calls himself Devil Baby. That's your first clue.
Did he know
Not
that initially?
Not marriage material is what I say to that.
Well, I completely agree. I completely agree. It is something that very successful young men are prone to, isn't it, I suppose?
Yes, it is.
It's part of that. I don't want to say it's part of the job and he should be... I mean, it's dreadful. It's absolutely... If it was my brother, I'd be furious.
Yes.
But I'm not totally shocked. I bet it doesn't happen as often to people who are champion chess players,
I bet
for example.
if it was my brother, I'd be delighted for him.
OK, well, we do offer different points of view on this show, but those are the front pages out of the way. Do join us in a minute for Labour's Brexit plans, the impending economic crisis, and whether we will see the end of that awful man, Missy. See you in a minute.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle. Still with me, looking at Thursday's top news stories, are comedians Leo Kearse and Cressida Wetton. So we're going to kick off this section with Thursday's Mirror. Leo, is this the end of the Suze Braverman witch hunt?
Probably not. So Home Secretary Suze Braverman will not face investigation into speeding fine row. I'm embarrassed for British media at this point. The stuff they try and get politicians for, like you said, there's Rishi Sunak's seatbelt moment.
Yeah.
There's Boris Johnson with, they did bring him down with Partygate, and now they're still trying to hammer nails into his coffin with that. And now Suze Braverman, who she had to take a speed awareness course.
Yes.
And she just asked, would it be possible to do it privately? Because, she's obviously a well-known figure.
Right.
And it is possible to do it privately.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, apparently they do that for famous people.
Yeah.
I mean, asking the question doesn't seem like a problem at all.
No, not at all.
She did pay the fine.
Yeah, she took the point. She paid the fine.
So what the hell's going on? This just was never a story.
Well, I agree. I mean, who hasn't printed something off on the office printer? But isn't it that
You've been doing that.
You can't do that. You have to pay. You realise that, Cressida?
Boarding passes are all on our phones. The point is, she... what they're saying is that she used the civil service, isn't it, to find out rather than do it herself or get a lawyer or something. But it just...
That's what the civil service are for.
Well,
they're there to do stuff for the politicians.
They're obviously just angry that they had to do something.
Right, yeah. I think the civil service is absolutely messed up. Because it's so ideologically captured, for one thing. They've got a really partisan... Do you remember that tweet that someone at the civil service put out last year about these awful people we have to work for? And it got deleted in about 40 minutes, but it was there. Yeah. It was out there, They just need to burn the lot of it.
Anyway, it sounds like she hasn't broken the code, so...
It's just...
Surely that's the end of it.
Anyone who's... It doesn't matter if you're for her policies or against her policies. Surely we can all agree that this was a complete waste of time.
Absolutely. And now they're trying to pivot and make it about the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, dithering for days over whether she should be investigated.
He was probably just confused. What's going on? What does it matter?
He's got other things to deal with than somebody, behaving appropriately and taking their points. He probably didn't realise it was an issue for, outside of this sort of blob bubble.
Yeah. Well, no, this is just another example of the media sort of running with something which they should have just let drop. Anyway, Brexit news now from The Telegraph. Labour want us to go back and do it all again, do they?
Well, they're saying they don't. Labour would seek practical changes to Brexit deal in the first year government, says Rachel Reeves. So she's saying, the Shadow Chancellor is saying that Keir Starmer would seize on the to create a baked-in review of the pact scheduled for 2025. But what she's saying is that they are not going to try and rejoin the EU.
No, they're saying we're not going into the single market, the customs union, or anything like that. And, Labour do have to tread a bit carefully here, because this is what completely destroyed their red wall, was the fact that they went for a people's vote, a second vote, even though 70% of Labour constituencies voted leave, and they can't now go back. I mean, Keir Starmer has said that we're definitely not going back in the EU. Do you believe him?
I mean, there's the EU, and then there's the European Community. There's the single market.
But they're saying they won't. Rachel Reeves is saying they absolutely won't go into the single union, the customs union.
Yeah, but I think they'll fudge it, because we're already doing lots of business in Europe, but British companies. So we're exporting a lot of services to Europe. Yes. British companies are having to set up sort of shell companies in Luxembourg, and that's a loophole that could be closed by Europe. Or we could just make that a bit more frictionless. It seems ridiculous to deny ourselves selling services and selling goods into Europe.
But aren't you slightly concerned that they're sort of just edging back, creeping back scraping at the door of the EU, saying, please let us back in Verhofstadt or whoever's there at the moment?
No, I mean, I think having sovereignty over our own laws and having secure borders is what we wanted. And we at the moment, we seem to have the worst of both worlds. So we're not getting the sort of economic benefits of being in the EU. We're having to find these workarounds. And also, we've got the opposite of what we were promised by Brexit. So we've got, record levels of migration, illegal and legal migration.
Well, isn't this, Cressida, just that no one really carried it through, did they? When Theresa May was entrusted with this, she saw it as, basically damage limitation, because she didn't want us to leave.
Right,
She came up with this ridiculous non-deal. And we're paying for that legacy ever since, really.
Well, yeah, and the article says that if we do try and renegotiate in 2025, it's not... Brussels just see it as a technical, we've got to do a review, like your landlord might over your rent. It's not necessarily going to be a chance to really jump in and renegotiate.
No.
And it's also been suggested that the EU or Brussels will want free movement at that point, which completely gets away from the whole point of immigration, doesn't it?
Right, exactly. OK, well, we're going to move on now to TikTok news in The Guardian. This is about this prankster, Missy, but I don't think, Leo, these are crimes, aren't they?
Yeah, and he's been found guilty of breaching his community protection notice.
Could you explain what he's done? This boy, he's 18 years old.
He's 18 years old. He committed lots of crimes. His real name is Bakari Bronze Ogaro, but he's known as Missy. And he made threats to kill people. He went up to people, said, "Do you want to die?" He sexually assaulted a woman, stroked her hair.
And all these things were filmed.
And filmed for his TikTok channel. He made racially aggravated assaults against Orthodox Jews, criminal damage. He ripped up library books. He trespassed on properties, entered houses.
Yeah, we should say that he claimed it wasn't a racially aggravated crime, that he was jumping on white people, black people, Jewish people. He said he was an equal opportunities. Whatever that is.
The ones I saw, he was abusing ultra-Orthodox Jews because, obviously they stand out a bit. So
I'm not defending this guy, don't worry.
I mean, it's
he stole their hats and stuff.
The attitude with it, isn't it? He so wants to antagonise people. The attitude, there's no sneakiness about it. He's very, very blatant, and he's clearly saying there's nothing that anyone in authority can do about this.
There are two issues about this. Like, firstly, these are quite clearly crimes, right? You just can't. It's against the law. So it's not like people filming pranks like they usually do. They're filming crimes.
Well, the thing is, I mean, he's because we've got protected characteristics, so the police won't go after him. If it was a white guy, retweeting a naughty limerick, they'd scramble all units, and
he's claiming that he's getting disproportionate attacked because he's black.
He's absolutely not. He's been disproportionately not arrested. I mean, he's committed all this stuff, genuine crimes that he's filmed.
Yeah.
There's loads of evidence of them. He can sue me if he thinks that that's wrong, but he's definitely committed crimes. Instead of being charged with those crimes, he's just been charged for breaching a community protection notice that said that he shouldn't trespass on private property.
What's he got, a fine or something?
So he's been fined 200 quid for that. It's an absolute slap in the wrist. He's laughing about it. He's laughing and saying UK laws are too weak, and he's absolutely right. I absolutely agree with him.
This is interesting, Cressida. So I saw an interview with him earlier, and he comes across as a bit of a sociopath.
Absolutely.
He doesn't think that. Yeah, he doesn't think there's anything wrong with this. His whole ethos seems to be I should be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And there's so many young people that seem to be now taking on this idea that they have no responsibility within society. It's just about what they want.
I mean, I don't think most young people are as bad as that. Most people want the approval of others, don't they? And I can understand people doing things for clicks and likes, and I understand that social media is quite narcissistic. But as you say, this is just off the scale. It's so aggressive what he's doing, and it's almost like nobody but his few little cronies would still want to be friends with him. I don't think he's going to be popular with the girls.
No, and it's one of these few stories where I haven't heard anyone attempt to defend him. I just don't think anyone
I'll defend him. I'll defend him right now. It's society's problem. So we've got this milquetoast, lefty, wet, white, liberal culture that's basically said to people like him, "Oh, you deserve reparations. We need to abolish whiteness." So he's grown up the last few years. That's all he's been told. He believes it's his divine right to commit these crimes and walk into people's houses. He thinks nobody's going to stop him, and he's absolutely right. Nobody has stopped him.
He's quite cowardly, though. So the targets he's choosing aren't going to fight back. You know, he's not going to get, like Brendan O'Neill made this point in an article for Spiked, he's not going to go up to a group of lads, dockers, and say, do you want to die? Because he'd get beaten to a bloody pulp, wouldn't he?
Absolutely.
He's not, he's going into sort of posh middle-class families' houses.
But all the people he's stopping on the street, they're afraid they know that if they do anything to him, you know, if a middle-aged white guy stops, you know, a young black guy, then that's going to be perceived as a hate crime because they're a protected
I don't know
class,
about, not in this case, I think everyone hates this guy. I think
yeah, but that's why people aren't doing anything, because if they did anything to stop him, they'd be a hate criminal.
OK, we're going to move on to the Daily Mail now. Does moving prisoners abroad affect immigration figures, Cressida?
Well, it might affect them by a couple of hundred. Albanian prisoners to be deported. 200 of the country's nationals in English and Welsh jails will serve the rest of their sentence overseas to free up space in UK cells, government reveals. But we're talking about 200 people, and this is in a picture of UK prisons are currently at 99% capacity. So it's a step in the right direction, but it's a small step. And I want to know what it means when they say Britain will help support Albania to modernise its own prison system as part of the arrangement. So it sounds like we're paying for this.
But why are we paying for this? Because, I mean, it's not the case that these are people from Albania who've become naturalised and are citizens of the UK. They're actually Albanian citizens. So if they're criminals, it's not. I don't think it's a particularly right-wing thing to say that it's fair enough that they're in an Albanian prison, right?
Yeah, but if we deport them, then they can just come back across. So it's. I mean, I guess it's safer to have them here serving their sentences. I'm not entirely certain of the the rules around people serving sentences. I know some countries people don't get sent back because they'd be freed. I think the Lockerbie bomber wasn't sent back for that.
OK, but is that what's happening here? Like with the Albanian situation, is that why they've kept the prisoners here?
I don't know.
Well,
I wondered if there was a sort of... I don't know about Albanian prisons, I'm not familiar with their work, but I wondered if there was even a human rights issue that somebody might say, oh, don't send them to those prisons because they don't meet the standards of UK
Interesting. I would have thought you'd be the sort of person who'd been in an Albanian prison.
Did you?
Yeah. You give off that vibe, Cressida.
You don't know me at all, Andrew. Yeah, I don't know. But so we've now got the responsibility of, we're going to modernise Albania's prison system. I mean,
yay! Why not? OK, let's move on now. A major global economic crash is on the horizon. This is the Express, Leo.
So the global economy could crash as the US hurtles towards a debt default. So Joe Biden has been told that America is on the brink of disaster as it hurtles towards this debt ceiling on June 1st. So that him and rival politicians have to agree a deal that will see the US able to borrow more money and raise the debt ceiling. But this seems to happen every year or two.
But luckily, what happens economically in America doesn't affect the rest of the world. Is that right? Have I got that right?
No, it does. I think America is 25% of the world's economy, despite only being 4% of the world's population.
So I've got it 100% wrong there.
So it would send shockwaves around the world.
But this, I mean, some of the critics of Biden, they've said that this is because of the government's reckless approach to budgeting. Can't believe that. Biden strikes me as the sort of person who's very much on the ball. He spends
a lot, and all his spending acts have got names like. So he's got the Inflation Reduction Act, which involves printing lots of money and spending it on ridiculous things.
Great.
So it's the sort of thing that would cause inflation.
Sounds fun, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cressida, any thoughts on this?
It's
Are we doomed? Is it going to be an international
Just as
recession?
we've got our inflation under double figures,
Yes.
this comes along. So look forward to the ripples from that.
Yes.
It's so bad that apparently they might have to close government. There's going to be a government shutdown. So that's fantastic. It's not all bad news.
Things might probably work a bit better.
Well, I love that. Just turn the government off for a week so we can all get ourselves together and get some good stuff going on.
Very good idea. OK, well, coming up, a new Republican candidate in the presidential race, Black Lives Matter's financial woes, and a review from The Guardian of The People's Channel. You won't want to miss that.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. So, The Guardian now with a cutting-edge piece about watching a certain TV channel. Cressida.
A certain TV channel. Conspiracy theories, mogologs and zombie stats. All in a week's work for GB News.
And this is The Guardian's review. They've done that really original thing. They're going to watch GB News for a week and talk about all that they saw. It hasn't been done like a million times before by ideological opponents.
Absolutely. I feel like I've read this before. Deliberately provocative channel with numerous Tory MP hostess planting its flag on the radical right of UK politics. I hope Francis Foster and Josh Howie are watching this.
So it's very interesting, isn't it? Because what this article does is effectively take all the sort of statements, cherry-pick a number of statements which this author just really doesn't agree with, without sort of neglecting the fact that the channel offers a wide range of opinions. Yeah. She doesn't mention Free Speech Nation, which I host, which has a lot of left-wing people on it. Doesn't mention Headliners at all, even though we have balance at most nights on this. So it's only picking one side. The whole point of the channel is that we have free speech for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the only places in the media where some issues such as grooming gangs or vaccine harm get any coverage whatsoever. And these are valid things that need to be covered.
When you had Andrew Bridgen on Free Speech Nation, I was just beaming with pride, thinking, that's us, and other channels won't do that.
So that's a good example. So I had Andrew Bridgen on with Fraser Myers. They vehemently disagreed. Yeah. They both got to say their piece. That didn't make The Guardian, did it?
No, it
because
didn't.
They're really not interested. And this is what I mean about this kind of... They're the ones who are ideological, because they are cherry-picking for an agenda, right? If they did an honest, balanced review and said, I didn't like this bit, but I like some of these opinions, why not mention Gloria Hunniford, former Labour MP, interviewing other Labour MPs? Why not mention that? Yeah. Why not?
Because that doesn't fit with what they're trying. They've got an idea in their heads of what GB News is, and that's what they hate. They've constructed this avatar.
Yeah. More importantly, though, why is anyone buying The Guardian anymore? Awful middle-class Blairite rag.
You don't buy it. At the bottom of every article, it says, you've read 14,000 Guardian articles this year. Consider giving us some money.
I love that they think they're for the working classes when they're £3 a day, as if working class people can
And they're getting that money from Bill Gates as well. So...
And they were founded by a slave owner. Every copy should be burnt. Tell Black Lives Matter. Outrageous.
And GB News, I think there is, in the sort of media media ecosystem, there needs to be channels that provide, the alternative viewpoints. Because, the bias on the BBC is ridiculous. Like a survey of BBC comedians showed that the ones, of all comedians on the BBC who have an overt political stance, 98% of them are left-leaning and 2% are Jeff Norcott.
Well, there we are. OK, well, we've given our balanced review of The Guardian's review of our channel. I think that's only fair. OK, we're going to move on now to The Telegraph. Black Lives Matter is in trouble. Leo?
So Black Lives Matter is at risk of insolvency as debt soars. Accounts show that the protest group continues to pay seven-figure salaries to their staff despite making a record $8.5 million loss. So I just love the hustle of Patrice Cullors and the Black Lives Matter people. They said to white people, listen, you're all racist, you better give us money. And all the white people were, oh yeah, no, I'm not racist, here, have some money. And then they were like, well, what should you do with this money? They spent $12 million on luxury homes for themselves, and they're bringing in, as I would totally do in that position, they're bringing in baby daddies, not that I've got a baby daddy, but I've got a fully grown daddy. But sisters and all the rest.
But there was a lot of nepotism going on.
A lot of nepotism. Yeah. So the BLM co-founder Patrice Cullors, her brother Paul, launched two companies that were paid $1.8 million for providing professional security services, despite him having no history of having worked in security. Damon Turner.
Maybe he just did really well in the interview.
Yeah, it can happen. Yeah. A bit of a coincidence that it was her brother. The father of her child billed almost $1 million for helping to produce live events and creative services. This is just classic. But what I love about this is they've gone insolvent. They're insolvent, so they've found a way to get out more money that isn't even there. So now they owe people money. They've run down their overdraft.
Cressida, people are going to be really angry because people gave money to this charity in good faith. And this woman, they bought a beach house. but she was saying, look, I'm going to use it for sort of like black-focused events and sort of like... But it never really happened. There was a lot of sunbathing, I know that.
You know the countryside is racist. So
I do know
you
that,
can start to create... I don't know. It's just bonkers, isn't it? Do you remember that lady that pretended to be black who was actually white?
Yeah, Rachel Dolezal.
Thank you. I just thought that woman was absolutely bizarre, and suddenly I can see why you might be tempted to try and change races.
What, to get a beach house?
Yeah.
Well, it's all falling apart, isn't it? It's not good at all. Anyway, we're going to move on to this next article. It's American news now. This is big news. New candidate entering the 2024 presidential race. Cressida.
Yeah, it's official now. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced his 2024 presidential bid. So it's going ahead. But he's still not beating Trump. And he's got to a point where people are saying he's so right-wing, he's into anti-woke, he's fallen out with Disney, but he's so far right.
Is that how you become far right by falling out with Disney?
Well,
this major capitalist organisation.
Well, exactly. He's got to a point where he's caused so much trouble for himself that it looks like the right people won't vote for him because they prefer Trump, and the left people aren't going to go anywhere near him because...
No, it's a bit more complicated than that because, to actually get the candidacy, to be able to run for president as the Republican candidate, he's got to win over the sort of extremes of the Republican base.
Right.
And they love Trump because Trump's, pretty entertaining and pretty rabid and pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So Ron DeSantis has got a proven track record in winning elections. Florida used to be, I'm sure it used to be a Democratic state. Now he
totally swung it around. Totally.
Now he's got a 19-point lead
in a very short space of time.
Yeah, and so he can really deliver the goods as a politician. He'd have much more chance with the wider American public than Trump would.
This is a really good point, Leo, because I think with him, he's proven that he's actually a very competent governor, right? He's someone who can actually do politics well. The Guardian here talks about how he's focusing on divisive culture war-focused policies. Actually, this isn't altogether true. He's making his stance clear on things like critical race theory and gender identity ideology, but he's also doing the nuts and bolts of governance in a way that has been clearly effective, right? Now, I can't help thinking, Cressida, if the Republicans went for Ron DeSantis, Joe Biden would be buried. Because there's no way that they couldn't even have a conversation. One of them could talk and one of them can't. So what kind of debate will that be?
Well, that's a great point. I wouldn't fancy Biden's chances against it. And he's not even known for his skills with people, is he? That's one of the things he's criticised for. But if you put him against Biden, I think...
So isn't it the case, Leo, that the Republicans, if they had any sense, would ditch Trump and go for DeSantis.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is the sort of, I guess, for a lot of people on the extremes of the Republican Party, the sort of dream candidate, and he's so entertaining, he's so funny. But Ron could actually win. He's got a much greater chance of...
Well, the Democrats want Trump to win.
The Democrats, they want Trump to be the candidate that they go up against, because he's the only chance that... but, I mean, that could backfire. I mean, it backfired for Hillary.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, Ron DeSantis is great. And the stuff that he's being criticised for being far right on is stuff like, not having drag queens going into schools and pushing a sort of gender ideology on the kids to, encourage them that ends up with them being encouraged to transition. That seems to make sense.
There have been mistakes there, though, Leo. I mean, so he put in this thing, he didn't want overtly pornographic, sexually explicit materials in school libraries, which of course is right. He should get those out of school libraries. But what got caught up in that ban was books by Toni Morrison and really important works of literature. That's bad, isn't it? That's not a good look.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to sort of legislate for things like that and distinguish between sort of pornography and, what is a great work of art or whatever. You know what I mean? The Venus de Milo statue is a great example, which...
Very erotic statue.
Yeah, which,
if you like armless women.
I think somebody was actually fired for showing kids that statue.
Really?
And it might have been in Florida. An American teacher definitely was.
Okay, well, that's not good.
No,
I think it was Michelangelo's David, but I think it turned out to be a fake news story or something like that, yeah.
No, it was true, but they were supposed to get the parents to sign a permission thing. So it was more
to see Michelangelo's David?
Yeah, but it's like a procedural thing.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And for the most part, it gets signed, doesn't it? And then we had a story recently about the teacher that showed a Disney film, Strange World, is that right? And it really wasn't that big a deal, but he wasn't happy about it.
OK. All right, well, we're going to move on now. Daily Mail. This could be bad news for anyone who likes long road trips, Leo.
So, according to this think tank, drivers should be taxed by the mile to fill the £25 billion black hole from lost fuel duty when electric cars take over the road. So, at the moment, if you fill up your car with diesel or petrol, you pay a big levy, a big, surcharge on your fuel, and the government gets lots of money from that. But with electric vehicles, you can't really levy the same thing on electricity, because then it'd be getting levied on toasters and everything like that.
It's just more bills we have to pay.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. They're like, oh, how are we going to fill that gap? It's like, how about you just reduce the amount of tax? You just take that hit and you fire some people in some councils somewhere.
What do you think of that, Cressida?
Well, I was thinking, fair enough, one source of tax is gone, they've got to replace it. But I guess you'd like a lot less tax all round.
Well, yes, Leo, on his own, particularly on his money.
Well, the cost of administering this tax, so it's so complicated. Among the recommendations is to charge motorists on a per-mile basis. Drivers of zero-emission electric vehicles would pay significantly less than those behind petrol or diesel. All vehicles would receive an annual allocation of tax-free miles, with more for those in remote areas with fewer transport alternatives. It's all just this technocratic fudging and
Isn't the bigger concern about being tracked? That's what people are upset about, isn't it? Most people are used to paying tax for motoring. But the worry is, well, how are you going to know where I've been and how many miles I've done?
All right, well, listen, we do have to move on. That is it for part 3. But do join us for the final section, where we're going to be discussing a ban on bouncy castles. It's about time. A man's extreme measure to stay looking young, and the controversial nude dress trend. You won't want to miss that.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle. It's your first look at Thursday's newspapers. We're going to kick off this final section with The Telegraph, a story about trans runners, Leo.
Yeah, not just any trans runners. This is a murderer who holds the record for the women's park run race in Aberystwyth, even though...
It sounds made up.
It does. This whole thing sounds absurd.
So Lauren Jeska, a transgender athlete who's obviously one of the most victimised people on the planet.
Apart from the victims.
Apart from the person that he, she, they, whatever, victimised. So in 2016, the then 42-year-old left Ralph Nibbs, the UK Athletics head of human resources, with life-threatening stab injuries after taking 2 knives to his office. Because apparently Ralph Nibbs had marked her down, or didn't allow her to compete, or annulled records because Jessica didn't provide testosterone, didn't provide blood samples that would allow the sort of testosterone.
So followed the rules, in other words.
Yeah, follow the rules.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, this is insane. It's bad enough men in women's sports, but attempted murderers in women's sports.
Yeah, and still
and now
the record.
is in a female prison. Where we won't keep any violent trans offenders.
It's an absolute clown world.
For goodness sake, we're going to move on. I have to, because otherwise I'll go insane. We're going to stick with The Telegraph. Scottish news. Fun is banned in the Highlands, Cressida.
Bouncy Castle Ban by Highland Council sparks backlash. I mean, you're supposed to get a broken arm, aren't you? That's one of the features.
Is that why they've banned it? Because of the fear of broken arms?
Well,
That's part
they
of the
say
fun.
they haven't got enough staff because they're saying because it's in the countryside and it's an area with lots of space, they'd have to drive quite a long way to do the health and safety check. I mean, imagine if you were a building surveyor and you turned up and it was a bouncy castle, not a real building. What checks were they doing?
Leo, what's going on? There's a lot of killjoys in Scotland, aren't they? Most of them in the government.
In fairness to these, it looks like they're jobs worth, but actually inflatables, bouncy castles, whatever you want to call them, are incredibly dangerous. And if they're not tethered correctly, no, there have been a lot of deaths. It's not just from falling and landing on your head or whatever. But if there's a wind and they're not tethered correctly, there was an artistic installation that blew away. People fell from it and died. Other bouncy castles have blown away and people have died. So it does.
You're making that up.
No, this is legit true. And I used to work with a policeman whose second job, whose weekend job, was renting out bouncy castles.
Who knew? Bouncy castles are the scourge of humanity. We're going to move on to this one. This is the Daily Mail, and millionaires resorting to being real-life vampires to stay young.
That's just vile. They've done a pun here. Biohacking tech mogul 45 is injected with the blood of his 17-year-old son as part of the latest attempt to reverse aging.
Wait, this guy, right? This billionaire, Brian Johnson, he's already got like a heart that's from some young person and a liver or something. But he's taking organs from young people.
I don't know if he's harvesting organs, but I mean, don't give him ideas. I mean, if I was his son, I'd be very worried.
No, it says here he's trying to reduce his biology. He has the heart of a 37-year-old, the skin of a 28-year-old.
No, I think maybe they've tested it. And
so it's just the functioning, because when you...
I thought he was literally stealing organs.
No, but he would.
Because that wouldn't be good for you. That wouldn't lengthen your...
I was going to say, I'm not a scientist, but I don't think that's going to work.
Only in, like, 40s horror films. But yeah, no, he puts this plasma, and it's also from Oldie. He gets it from his dad as well. They get the plasma, they spin the blood, take the plasma, they put it in his body, and he gets rejuvenated.
Does it work?
And apparently it works. Apparently the plasma, the youthful plasma, and the older plasma, for some reason, this is the thing that I didn't understand, then rejuvenates, that allows his muscles to repair and things.
Cressida, why can't people just grow old gracefully? Why do you have to suck the blood of your children?
I think it's so disgusting. I mean, Botox makes me cringe. This just makes me want to vomit. And I feel so sorry for the son. I mean, all this because there's a big inheritance to come. He can't say no.
He can't.
It's just so
Is this
sad.
why he had the son, so that he could sort of steal his life force?
It does.
That's not what parenting's about.
Yeah, it's like that Simpsons episode where he grabs the kidney when he's hugging Bart.
Right, we're going to move on to the mail. This is... what's this one about? Something from that... I can't even see this now. This is about...
This is about robust childcare.
OK, go on.
Father accused of child abuse after a video of him carrying his daughter sparked concern, but others claim it's fun and relatable. Now, it sounds bad, but I've watched the video, and he just very gently picks up his daughter and moves her by her coat. It's not... I don't know why this is
We
called
actually
such-
have the video. Let's have a quick
brilliant.
look. So this is the daughter being truculent, lying on the floor, won't get up, and he picks her up and carries her like a shopping bag. Do you know what? That looks like fun.
Yeah.
Look, there's no way that's abusive. Come on.
She's fully supported?
Yeah.
That's great. I wish somebody would carry me like that.
Exactly. Like when I was a kid, people used to, grab you by the hair and throw you into broken glass. And...
Really?
No. But, but that's not abusive, is it? It's not.
No, certainly not for Glasgow.
No. And finally, the Times and the see-through dress is in. Cressida, I should have worn mine.
Yes, maybe. Next time. Sheer madness. Has the naked dress craze gone too far? Now, are you aware of naked dresses?
Well, I am now. I've read the article.
Right, OK, so
But how would you know if somebody's wearing one?
Oh, you'd know. Well, it just means a dress where you can see your underwear, doesn't it? It's pretty much a mesh dress.
Yeah, but this isn't just visible panty line stuff. This is
this is...
This is like you're wearing what's it called, like a cling film. Look at that.
Oh, there you go. There's an example.
I mean,
that's actually quite covered up for a naked dress. I mean, some of them are really... Well, it's like going around in your underwear, isn't it?
Leo, do you think that is obscene? Do you think that's indecent exposure? Are you offended by that image?
No, I mean, it does. It's a small indication of the Weimar-esque degeneracy of the Western world.
Oh, you always have to take it to extremes, don't you?
No, but I think he's right. How can we be so sensitive about sex in some areas and not in others? And the other thing is, the fashion writer is saying she misses the times when there were excesses, like the Sam Smith outfit we had recently, the crazy dresses, because all they're doing is just taking their clothes off. There's nothing to...
OK, well, look, the show's nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Thursday's front pages for you. The Daily Mail leading with top cop in VIP abuse probe faces misconduct charges. The Telegraph has millions on jobless benefits, do not have to seek work. The Guardian is leading with clamour for PM to scrap Johnson's honours list. The Times has Whitehall clash over Johnson's COVID diary. The Metro, Prem stars stalked by Devil Baby. And the Daily Star with the very sad news of the passing of Tina Turner. That's all we've got time for, but thank you to my guests Leo Kearse and Cressida Wett. And we're back tomorrow at 11 o'clock, where Nick Dixon will be joined by Lewis Schaefer and Paul Cox. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, do stay tuned, because it's time for breakfast.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive, because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.